Welcome to the John and Cody podcast.
And we're back. You don't have your dad gang hat on. I thought you were going to.
I got a haircut. I want everybody to see my hair transplant that I got because it's a perfect straight line.
Cut it out.
Cut that? We're going to cut that. Or not.
It does look good.
It looks great. Everybody's been asking me about it. $8,000. I went to Houston to get it done. They did here, and they did the back. And it just looks incredible.
I couldn't even tell. Look, I got a little.
You need it. I'll get you with my guy.
We're both double girl dads.
Isn't that wild?
I know.
It's wild that I have 2 kids right now.
I know.
A lot of my friends were like, you're the last person I would have thought that would have had kids. I knew I was going to have girls. It's like God saying, Cody.
It's what we needed.
It's 100% about what I needed.
I mean, dude, you're fresh in it, though. You're very fresh.
I know, dude. I've got a 15-month-old and a almost 4-month-old.
That's insane.
My house is chaos. Right?
Every room's like dedicated to the children's, right?
So April's always like, and we're going to get into this work-life balance today. But April's always like, I want you to work from home. You can just work in your office. And I'm like, what office? It's not an office anymore.
And it's just an open space.
Yeah, I don't have doors.
See, that's also impossible. I mean, that's why I'm so glad. Like, I was officing out of home, and I couldn't get ish done. No. And it's crazy because I actually felt more guilty. It's almost like if you're there, but you're like working, you're like a piece of shit, But if you're like gone all day and you come home, everyone's happy to see you.
You're still a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. But I don't know. It's interesting. A lot of people probably can relate to this. This work-life balance as an entrepreneur is so it can be very complicated with your significant other, and she's super busy too, which makes it even harder.
But she primarily stays home.
She stays home because she can, and she wants to be with the kids, and she doesn't want to. We tried daycare, and that lasted like 2 days. She had because they have the cameras that you can watch.
Yeah.
I'm like sitting in my office, and she's calling me like because you can only look at the cameras for 10 minutes, up to 10 minutes. And so she's knocking that out in the first 10 minutes, right? She's done. So now she's calling me and she's saying, hey, pull up the camera. What's Mila doing? Is she by herself? Is she crying? I'm like, April, go get the kids. We're not doing this. This is the time for you to, she's an amazing mom and she is great with them. And that's where I've learned a lot about being a dad is through her. But I'm just like, now is the time. And all of her friends are telling her this too. If you are able to watch your kids at a young age, if you have the ability to do that, you should, because it's a very precious time as they're growing at that age. And so she finally decided to just do that, but that makes it hard because she is actually really busy during the day with her influence work. And we have babysitters that help, which I didn't realize how expensive that was.
Right. I know, it's insane.
There's some days she's hiring 2 babysitters. One babysitter is for the babies, and one babysitter is for help her film her content.
At least she's utilizing stuff, though.
No, totally.
Because, I mean, isn't there, like, with us, I mean, there's a ton of resentment that builds because my wife's like a super mom, too. I mean, her whole life is dedicated to the kids, and it's like, it's amazing because these kids are going to be so full of love, and they're cared for all the time. But then my wife's like, she gets so burnt out, and she'll be like, well, you're out at the office with all of your friends having a good time and socializing, and I'm just with children. So it like robs her, like starves her of that adult interaction.
It's funny you say that because I feel like we have a lot of similarities in regards to what we deal with when it comes to working and then going home and hanging out with the kids and helping our significant other. I used to have this perception because it was just pure ignorance. I used to have this perception of like, look, I am working tirelessly every single day to create a better future for me and my family. And so I'd always say, I'm doing this, and I tell her like, I would trade you, and I would do what you do, and you take on what I'm taking on any day of the week. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And then, I start to, because I'm new. I'm a new dad still. And then I start to, and I was never a baby person. Like I never held a baby before.
That's not shocking to me at all.
I know. I never held a baby until I had my own. I just, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to drop it. No.
It is really like and did you find it like a little harder to connect with like a newborn? It's like do something, they're like this little parasite.
Men are, and I'm not going to speak for all men, but most of the men that I've talked to about having kids, they don't get that emotional connection with their son or daughter until they're probably about 6-7 months.
Yeah, I was going to say that's when I started to be like, okay, this is like a person with expressions.
It's basically when they start smiling and they can tell, like, it's stuff like that. But April was like, so April would sometimes get a little frustrated because, I'm not as emotionally attached to our very, very little one, but I'm super attached to Mila, who's 15 months, because she's like talking, and it's just a totally different thing. What I was saying was, like, would I trade what I do and have her do it to take that role on? And then as I started to see what was going on, like I would work from home some days, I was like, I go absolutely insane. Like these women that watch our kids all day, I probably couldn't do it. Like
no.
I give them all the credit in the world. That is more than a full-time job, because it is just, it is just hard.
Well, it's a perfect example of like what you're saying is like the skills that we have. They're not about being
It's not
patient.
those skills.
They're not about being patient.
Yeah.
They're not about like, being selfless. They're not about like, sitting down and having to like connect with this child in like a super, super specific way. Like it's so foreign to me. Like I want to lead. I want to be in the thick of it. Like I could be out in a war and I'm okay. And like my wife does not like situations like that. She doesn't like confrontation. Like she's way more like even keel and all this stuff, right? But it's just funny because these like same skills that make you hyper successful in business, there is very little crossover to being like a good present father.
Oh, 100%.
And there's a lot of guilt there, especially for me, like where I'm just like, damn, like I'm a winner, like I everything I do is supposed to work out. And then I'm like, when I'm having trouble at home, dude, when we had our second, so I have a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old. When we had our second, like in like maybe the first month or two, I like sat down with my wife and I was just crying. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, this is so hard. And she's like, yeah, because I was the primary parent for our first, and now I have to take care of the newborn, and you have to be the primary parent with the first. So it was like, that's when I was like, oh my God, like my responsibilities like really kicked in.
Like the throwing up on you, and like the diapers isn't like a problem for you?
No, the spit up phase is so awful. And you're just like,
and then like the milk starts to smell funny in your clothes.
But see, like Melissa, like she's like, oh, this is nothing.
No problem.
Like poop, throw up, like all this shit. She's like, okay, and I'm like trying to change a diaper and like gagging. She's like, get out of here.
Well, and you brought up a good point. Like we thrive in chaos.
Yeah,
we just do. I love it. If I like when on the weekend, it's hilarious. Like when I go home and I can't sit on the couch. April can't stand it because I'm like always trying to find something to do, even if it's getting in my car and just going and driving around.
Yeah.
Because I can't sit at home. And I'm trying to get better at it and get more patient. I've never had patience. That's how my dad was. And I'm getting better at it. But it's interesting because, like we thrive in chaos. Like you could argue it's chaos over at the house too.
But it's a different
kind of chaos. Yeah. But with April, I give her credit because she's dealing with that. And she's also doing her influencer thing, which she does have a lot going on that front. So, I've learned that I have to, be more self-aware of what she's dealing with at home and how hard that actually is. Because look, let's be real. And I'm fortunate for this. We literally wake up and we come to this amazing office that you built.
This is our space that we cultivated together.
But the big thing that is a blessing that I think we deserve because we worked really hard is we literally hang out with our friends all day.
I know.
Like all my friends work at Sprout. You got all your friends. Now we're friends. Everyone's in here. We're all having a good time. And I feel like sometimes April will look at that and be like, Cody, you literally hang out with your friends all day. But she also doesn't see the day-to-day of what I actually deal with.
And that's the thing is like, there's There's a lot of that because they're around. But then there's also the weight of the fucking world on my shoulders of like making payroll, of like getting new jobs, of dealing with difficult clients, lawsuits, insurance claims, just bullshit piling up. And that's the stuff that I hold in because I don't want to dump that on her. Because I'm like, I know you're having a hell of a time with the girls, and I know like you're dealing with your own struggles. But what's funny is my wife's like, I want you to tell me that stuff. And I'm like, but I'm trying to keep all this under wraps because I'm afraid if I peel the lid back to tell you what's going on, right? So then what happens is like it suppresses a lot more of my emotions. And like, dude, we just had a talk the other day where like Melissa was like, look, John, like you're an incredible provider, but like you're around a lot, but like I need you like in the moment. Like I need you like present. Like your mind is always elsewhere. And I'm just like, damn. And it just hit me hard because I just feel like if I'm earning and I'm gaining more business and I'm creating this future for us, I'm doing all the right things. But it's like so funny. Like sometimes just the simple things is like they just want more of my attention.
We as men, we think that if we, and men have it hard in regards to, it's just there's this perception, at least for men, that they have to be the provider because that's kind of how like our parents were and the grandparents were, and it's changing.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing. But I've always been under the impression, and this is why I get so stressed, is like I have to provide for my family. I want to be able to give my family. I want to put them in a situation where April doesn't ever have to work. Kids are going to be spoiled in a good way because there's a right and a wrong way of spoiling.
First off, dude, it's so funny. Some of like my tradesmen and stuff, like you meet their kids and they're like, dude, they're spoiled as shit. Everyone, the goal of being a good parent is to give your kid more than you had, right? You obviously don't want to make them like an ungrateful little brat and like not appreciate this stuff, but yeah, we spoil the shit out of our kids.
100%, especially if you're a girl dad.
Yeah,
like good luck. Like they're gonna be spoiled. You're gonna be the dad where you're in the store and mom's with you and she wants a candy bar.
Yep.
And mom's gonna say no, and I'm gonna be like, no.
This is the exact dynamic, and Melissa gets so pissed because the girls love her. Obviously, she's like the primary parent. They want mama, but there's certain instances where dad can get the edge if it's like buying them stuff or letting them do stuff that they're not really supposed to, like watching a scary movie or whatever.
Don't tell mom.
Yeah, and Melissa's like, you're making me out to be the bad guy. I'm like, oh, in the one instance that our daughters prefer me, you're going to take that away from me? No.
That is funny.
But like, let me go back to what you said because I really like the provider thing. I think many people like we focus on that, and then like at a certain point you're like, damn, like, have I been providing long enough? Like, do I need to continue to like focus solely on that? I think there's a certain point in our lives where that has to be your focus if you want to start something great. But at what point can you like resonate with the fact of like, is this like an addiction? Like, am I just addicted to like work? Am I addicted to providing? Am I using that excuse to be like, well, this is all for y'all? But if I'm not present with them every day and I'm not there and I'm not really showing them this like unconditional love, I mean, I think you're only doing half your job.
I think you're addicted to the process of growth. Like if we're not in anything, if we're not growing, we're not doing what we're meant to do.
When does it end?
And it doesn't ever end. And so you got to figure out a way to create this balance. But look, any entrepreneur is going to be this way, right? And if you find the right woman, which we both have, they're going to have to somewhat understand what we do. And if it's done correctly, they can intertwine and have a little bit of understanding for what we do, and we can do the same thing to where it actually kind of flows and works together to where we can grow together, right? It's just when you have this resentment, with like April, like she has resentment when I'm at the office too late, or like I'm hanging out with my friends and I post on my story and she sees that and she's like, you get to have fun all day, and I'm at home with the kids and I'm doing all my like videos and it's just a lot. And so at least April and we have to figure out a way for there to be that balance to where it works and it flows together. And what it takes understanding on both sides for us to both be able to, make the relationship thrive.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very hard thing to do because, I mean, I can only imagine being in her shoes. I mean, I've tried it, and it is a very, very difficult.
Well, the other problem is that what I hear a lot is like, like what they're doing is a thankless job.
Right.
We win awards. We get new projects. We get like some notoriety from this stuff to where like people are like, oh, this is great. But it's like, what they're doing with the kids is unbelievable. Like I tell Melissa every day, like I could never imagine like a better mother for our children. And like what you're doing for them is just absolutely incredible. And she's like, I don't think I'm doing enough. Like, am I giving the girls everything that they want and need? And I'm just like, how can you think that way? I'm like, I wish I could have like half of the like paternal instincts and like the just like gentleness and the nurturing, you know what I mean? But it's still not good enough for her. And I'm like, okay, like in the same way, you're chasing a goal that's not there. Like you cannot be perfect.
Right.
But you can give your kid, you can be there for your child unconditionally and still have some faults or even more so, it's like, go and do some shit. She feels guilty when she's away from the kids.
I know, and I have that same problem with April. I'm always telling April, like, look, I can watch the kids. I'm okay watching the kids because I think it's healthy for people in general, men or women, to have their time and their space, especially if you're in a relationship, especially if you have kids, to have your guy night or your girls night. And when I mean by a guys night and girls night is not what a lot of people think. Like my guys nights are with my boys, and they're literally therapy sessions where we all talk about our problems and our feelings, because we don't get our feelings out. We aren't vulnerable ever. And so these guys nights for me and for my friends, they find very valuable because I've had some of my friends cry at these things, and I don't think I've actually told April like the extent as to how our meetings go, but we're literally just we go in a circle, and we go, what are your problems? Because I'm a problem solver. I like solving problems. It's fun for me, business or personal, and so we go around in a circle and we talk about everyone's problems, business or personal, and somebody usually or multiple people have some sort of advice to help them get through it, right? And vice versa. And then I go around and
there's a lot of people that you're like, oh wow, like I've dealt with that, and you're all resonating with that situation.
That's right. And I think women should be able. They should do it, not be able to. They should be able to go have their girls' nights and do something similar because I think it's very healthy. But April's in the same boat as you, where it's like leaving the kids.
I think a lot of it too, like it's gotten a lot better when we get out of like the infant stage.
Yeah,
because in that stage, I feel like the hormones are so high to like provide for the newborn. But like, and I mean, dude, like all the postpartum stuff and all that shit, I mean, that's such a like battle. I mean, I can't even imagine.
I know.
But, we've gotten a lot better about like, there's this app called Bambino. Have you heard of it? It's like Tinder for babysitters. It's amazing. You literally match.
That's good to know.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Bambino is a game changer. You go on there, they have a profile, they have like how many years they've been doing it, their hourly rate, all their certifications, like,
and you just like,
and their age, yes. And you just say like, okay, I like, and for the first couple weeks of using it, I would just choose 20 of them, and I'm like, one of these has to answer. Every single time I got a sitter. And like now I have 3 or 4 sitters that the girls love from that. So dude, like Bambino,
yeah, that's nice to have multiple.
Game changer.
That's good to know.
Because they have one. They also have people that like they have a little thing like infant certified. Right. So if you have like a younger kid, but still, it's like it's still there's still a level of like discomfort with like my wife allowing anyone to watch our children, which is good.
Yeah. I'd almost have to have April just do that because. I already know how. If I do that, I know how that's gonna go. Everyone's wrong. The wrong babysitters. April, you just handle that, and
and she could do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and then you find, dude, there's people on there that are like grandmas, and they have in their bio like, I raised 6 kids and blah 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 blah, and I've been doing, and you're like, oh my god, okay, and then it just ends up being awesome.
Yep.
So it's like stuff like that.
100%. What are some of the things that you do with your work-life balance? That make your life complicated with Melissa? Like, is there like a funny story? I'm curious, like, to see if we have similarities in regards to what we both deal with.
Well-
I know there's plenty. So like you're going to be thinking about which one, but
Well, I just think it's more of like a daily thing of like
yeah,
why my clients love me is because I'm so like responsive and connected to them. But that also means that my phone is on me 24/7 and I might be answering a call or a text at 9 or 10 p.m.
right.
So it's mostly like, just this battle of like me being on my phone or answering a work call at like the worst times, And it's just like, and I fucking hate it too. Like I don't like it. And there is stuff that I can do to like set habits of like, oh, just put your phone away. Like everyone's like, at 5 or 6 p.m. I put my phone in a box and no one can reach me. I'm like,
Good
yeah, and
luck.
I'd wake up to a fucking nuclear bomb probably.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
I've done it.
Yeah,
You do.
and I've had clients like, there's a like I just busted my water heater. Like help me, And it's like,
And you were just in bed all night, just sleeping peacefully. You wake up in the morning and you got that on your plate. It's like, I deal with that after 30 minutes when I'm looking at my fucking phone.
No.
I mean, it's insane.
but is that fair? Like, is that fair to us? Like, is that how like things should be?
No,
like,
Barrett, my COO, we talked about this yesterday, actually. He's like, Cody, you're bogging yourself down with things that you shouldn't be bogging yourself down with. Basically, what he's saying is you don't need to answer every single phone call that comes in. Like sometimes, if an agent has a question, like most of my agents have questions, but it's like that. Like they can just send me a quick text of a question, I'm going to answer it, and we're done, right? And then some are phone or calls that I need to actually talk about. But let me ask you this. And this is more on the work side. Barrett hates this about me. It's like my only flaw,
that's your work wife, Barrett?
pretty much. Are you bad at whenever you're doing meetings of just like looking at your phone and your messages during your meetings?
Yeah, I mean, of course.
Oh my God, they literally bought me a cell phone box locker that you put your phone in and you lock it because they were like, we can't even get through a meeting because your phone won't shut the fuck up and you can't handle not looking at it. It was hilarious. It never worked. I didn't do the box thing. I threw it in the trash
Yeah.
the same day. But I was like, damn, dude, you're right. Because like they'll get mad, like, and it's rightfully so. My agents or some of my team leaders will get mad because I'm just looking at my phone and it's like I'm not paying attention. It's disrespectful as fuck.
Yeah.
And I never even noticed it because I was just like, God, I'm getting blown up and I'm doing this meeting. It's never.
Well, and then that's the perfect example of like what I try to do. Like if I try to focus on it, of course, like I'm exactly like that a lot of the times. But it's like if you have 50 different things to do, pick up one, have your attention right here, and then put it down before you do something else, right? Because then you're just like half-assing it all over the place. Mm-hmm. And like, I think the hardest part is just habits.
Yep.
We pick up our phone thousands of times in maybe one day. You know what I mean? So it's like, I think just like trying to break these habits. And like, the other thing is like, I think as you grow, like that habit cannot serve you because one of these things is going to require more time and more energy. You know what I mean? And I always get excited when something requires that much energy from me that I can tune other things out.
Yep.
But what's crazy is what normally that takes is like blowing something up, driving, a motor vehicle on the verge of death, or you know what I mean, or like something like super, super intense. And it's like that too is not like a healthy thing, you know. And it's like just this like overstimulation that we face every day, just trying to like recenter yourself. Like, people are like, well, try meditation. And I'm like, dude, if I sit still for like a minute, I'm going insane. And like that's like a sickness in itself, right?
I've tried it, the meditation and like the Wim Hof breathing method, which honestly the breathing method works very well. Mm-hmm. But I'm so impatient too. I'm like, and I'm sitting in my room and I'm like, what am I doing? I look like an idiot. No one's even watching. And I'm like telling myself that. It does have its benefits, but I mean, I've never been able to get into the whole meditation thing. It's just, I just deal with my problems really well at this point, and I don't need to meditate. I feel like you and I both deal with stress extremely well.
But do we?
But I don't know.
Do we?
I feel
Or do
like
we
we
just
do, or
have
do we
a-
suppress it?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So is that well? I mean, that's not like dealing with something well is like we're coping. Is what
You know what we
mean.
should do on the next podcast, probably, since we don't know the answer to this? Let's get a therapist in here. We'll do a double
That
whammy
would
with a
actually be
therapist.
awesome.
Let's get a therapist in here. Let's have them tell us what our
That'd
problems
be
are.
great. I'd like
I
that.
would imagine our April and Melissa would really enjoy watching that video.
For sure.
You know, I told you so. I told you so. That would be funny.
I really like that, actually. If we
know.
got like some fucking like,
It's like a therapy meeting
super
on camera.
present like guru, and he was like, you know, just to like center us.
John, you are fucked up.
Yeah. And I'm like, what? No.
That'd be funny. But I mean, yeah, man, it's I love what I do, and I've started other companies in the process. I mean, it's been fun, but it takes up a lot of my time. The amount of times that I've triple booked myself on 3 different meetings is insane. I'm so bad with my calendar. I got to get better at that. And everyone gets so mad at me, and I'm trying to that's like one of the main things I'm trying to fix is get more organized with my meetings, because I'll have a meeting and it runs long, and then to where I then miss the second meeting,
Right.
or I'm late to it, and I can just see the looks on my business partners' faces, and I'm like, I'm sorry guys, like I did not know that meeting was going to take that long.
But you know, all in all, I think you also do a really good job of like cultivating relationships with everyone you work with. You still find a way to take care of everyone, and every single entity is thriving. You know what I mean? So there's definitely things that we're both doing really well. I just think it's like a lot more simple. Like being like simple and present and calm and collected is like, it's not always like the sexiest thing. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges for me is like, sometimes like I just can't chase like all of the like, you know, craziness all the time. Like sometimes just like being, I don't even want to say content, because that means you're kind of like giving up. It's just like being full.
Just straight lining.
Yeah, it's like, or like being like, you know, like I really just think the word is present, and that's just the battle. And it's like, it's this conundrum of like, how do I be successful without being addicted to what it is that I'm doing? But then, am I going to miss everything going on and just wake up at 50 and be like, what the fuck happened? Mm-hmm. Now I'm successful and I can start living life.
A lot of people say that have made it. And
you don't want to do that, right?
I think self-reflection is the most important thing that you could possibly do. I was so bad at self-reflecting on my life because I'm always like pushing to the next thing. Like I'm always trying to go and go and go and go and go. And I never would self-reflect on what I've already accomplished. And we were in I think we were in Miami. We were like sitting on the beach, and I was just sitting there looking in the ocean. Like, you know, it was like the sun's coming down, and we're just like sitting there with April. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, okay, like what have I done already? And I'm 30. How old am I? 32? 32. I'm forgetting at this point. It doesn't even matter anymore.
That's because you don't have any other space in your brain.
Well, I know. But I was sitting there and I was like, okay, what have I accomplished to this point? I'm 32. I've created a real estate brokerage with amazing real estate agents, which has become successful, which led me into starting a roofing company that Sprout Realty was able to kind of catalyst it up and get it going. We started a mortgage company, a staging company, and so, and now we're working on a software company in the HOA space. So like it's created so many opportunities. And I just never thought about it. I was like, I'm 32 years old and I've been able to do these things. To me, like that's a really big accomplishment. And on top of that, we have this amazing building. We own the real estate.
But you never like stopped to pat yourself on the back.
No,
that's your point.
And I never did. And I'm not going to cry about it right now, at least. But I never get a pat on the back from anyone. Like it's never like, hey, Cody, you did a good job.
No, because usually the pats go down.
To them.
The pats go down.
That's right.
It's rare that they go up.
That's right. Maybe nice to get one every now and then.
Yeah,
Come on.
We can pat each other. Give me a.
You know?
Come here, buddy. Come here.
But yeah, I mean, and that's, you know, and then, but then what happened is whenever I do have someone say, hey, dude, like Isaac, one of my agents, he came in and he's like, hey, I just want to let you know I appreciate you.
That hits, right?
And I'm like, dude, can you say that to me every day? Because it just puts me in a much better mood, which makes me then do so much better.
But
I have to be able to just do it anyway.
But now it's more like, that's another thing. It's like some of that, like if we're seeking that validation from others, it's like we have to find that from within. And I have a really tough time doing
100%.
that. Like it almost like, but that's like the key to like, I feel like everything is already inside of us. Like we're so good at like looking to the outside and like problem solving and like dealing with external forces that this little sneaky inner self that we have, like that's where a lot of the battle goes on. But we almost don't have enough time to focus on.
When I first started Sprout, it was me, and it was me, myself, and I talking to myself about how I'm going to grow this company, and you just sit there and you're just thinking to yourself, is this the right choice, the wrong choice? Like, is this going to mess things up, or is it going to go well? And you never have anybody to talk to that's kind of on the same level as you, to kind of just give you a secondary opinion as to what choice is the right versus the wrong, to where you can at least make an educated decision. So like the number one advice I'd say, just doing this now multiple times, is having a business owner or a partner that you can, whether it's your business partner or your COO or, you know, like you got Andrew.
Yeah, like project
if,
manager.
Just have somebody who is in the same space as you, who understands what you're dealing with, to where you can go to that person and say, hey, I've been thinking about making this decision. I'm not really sure which way I want to go with it, but give me your take.
Right.
Because I can take other people's insights on what they think is right, and I can make a really, really good educated decision on what direction I want to go in if I can just get the feedback from other people's perspective. Mm-hmm. And so I learned very quickly, like, I have to have business partners, because it makes me feel better. It makes me not have to like be stressing all the time internally. I'm able to like get it out and talk to my business partners about, you know, personal things or business things, choices that I have to make, and which one's the right versus the wrong, and what are the repercussions if I go this way versus this way. These are the things you think about all the time that no one really thinks about. And so having somebody that's on your side that you can just talk to and open up about it is, I think, so important when it comes to running a business.
I think you're talking about, like, you don't ever want to be the smartest guy in the room.
Right.
Like,
yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I mean, but you know what's so funny is, like, you bring up those times, like, when it was just you, like, when I was just starting Revent, and, like, it was fucking fun, man. 100%. It was, like, it just felt like the Wild West, and I didn't have time to think about all this other bullshit. I just had to go. And I had to do, like, you know, I was also, like, producing. I was getting the jobs. I was finishing the jobs myself. I was managing them. And it was like, I look back on it fondly, but I remember being in it. It was just a shitstorm. But it was a lot more simple than it is now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just like crush, 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 crush. Now it's just like, you know, you got to...
Everything just kind of coming in, but it's just a lot more...
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I totally get it. We're in the same boat.
Should we... What if we had Melissa and April on and hear their side of things?
You know, it's funny you say that, because I over the weekend I was going to text you about this, and then I was like, nah, wait, it just might be a stupid idea. But I was thinking about, I was going to do a podcast with just April. We went to a concert this weekend, and it was funny. The concert was amazing. We were all like lovey-dovey, kissy-kissy on this. It's Cody Johnson, awesome country singer. And then it's funny because it was like a great night, and then we get in the car, or we get the pedicab to the car. That was fun. I overtipped this guy. He was like, "Man, you're a real guy. Like, I can just tell. Like you're something." And I'm like, "I appreciate that, man." And then we get in April rolls her eyes because she thinks it's getting blowing up my head. And then we get in the car, and then it goes to like immediate, like, we're just bickering about something stupid. And I'm like, "Dude, could you?" And it was funny, but it was still bickering. And I was like, could you imagine if you and I did a podcast, April, where we're actually talking about things that are real life problems or things that we fight about, that probably everybody else fights about, but no one wants to talk about it because they only want to make themselves look pretty on social media. Yeah. And we fault ourselves of that as well. But like, because perception is reality. So everyone's just posting things that make them look good. But like, there's so much more to posting things that are reality. And so we were talking about doing a podcast like that, which I think would be funny if we just incorporated all four of us, and just to get their insights on because we're probably so wrong.
Yeah, and we're like,
everything we're saying right now is wrong.
and the whole time, I'm like, man, we're kind of like speaking for them, but we're trying, you know. And then it's like, just I'd love to just hear their spin on like.
I would love to do that.
Everything.
I would love to do that.
We should try it out.
Oh my God, that'd be so funny. Because me and April are like, we're the same person. We're both very type A.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's insane.
I don't know, but also that can be good sometimes because me and Melissa are literally on the opposite ends of like everything.
Right.
Which is like great. It's what I need. It's the balance I need, but it's like why I want to like, it makes me, dude, earlier in our relationship, it would be like, frustrate me so much, but then I started to realize like, oh damn, like she's protecting me.
Yep.
Like, you know, she's keeping me from like these leeches and like anchor type people. And like, I'm like, wow, like, you know, she's like the hawk that sees danger 1,000 miles away. And I'm just in the thick of it, like not caring, eating, whatever. So it's like when we join forces, what's funny is, you know, Melissa used to basically be the CFO of our business until we had our second.
Right.
We had Jane, our first, and then that kind of like the bomb went off, and then she like jumped in, and like the way that she would like, you know, I just rake it all in, throw all the money at her, and I'm like, handle this, like protect it, you know? And it fucking was like so amazing, dude.
Oh, yeah.
And now, you know, she's taking a little step back to jump back into momhood, but I think now she's ready to kind of jump back in.
Right.
But it's like, dude, us as a team is really good, but it's just, it takes a lot of like ego death to appreciate that in someone else.
And with me and April, it's totally different than that because we're both very type A. I have my ways of doing things. She has her ways of doing things, and they're usually never the same. And so that's the kind of things that we bicker about. And I find it funny. And you know, we have to make adjustments, and you know, sometimes I have to like give in. Sometimes she has to give in.
All right.
So,
switching gears here a little bit. Question. Just tell me a situation where, don't name any names, where you've had like a weird run-in, like maybe an altercation or like an awkward interaction with like a competitor or like a hater or like, you know, someone in our local market that like doesn't want to see you win.
some just random guy comes walking into the office, and I'm like, hey, how can I help you? And he's like, and I walk over to him, and there's all my agents are in here, everyone's in here, and he goes, well, do you want me to yell at you in here or out there? And I'm like, well, everybody else yells at me in here, so it's fine. And he goes, let's go outside. And he was upset about something.
So a random guy walked into the office and said that to you in front of everyone.
For everybody. And so I made a joke, like, look, everyone else yells at me in here, so you're no different.
You're like, do your worst now.
We ended up going outside, and it's just a parking issue, but and you know, I'm really good at calming people down whenever they're like really amped up, and so he was fine. He's whatever. But an interesting client, the most craziest situation I dealt with a client was I was going to a listing appointment probably 3 years ago, and I pull up into the cul-de-sac, and I immediately see all of this stuff in the front yard, like just basically trash in the front, not actual trash, but like it didn't look good.
Like garage sale type.
Like garage sale stuff, but he wasn't having a garage sale. And I was like, well, this isn't going to go good. And so I pull in, I walk up and knock on the door, and I'm like, hey, I'm Cody with Sprout Realty. Nice to meet you. He's like, he's got this like shirt on with holes in it, and his hair. He looks like he just woke up. And I'm like, that back in the day, I dressed appropriate.
Yeah.
I dressed like an agent. I don't do that anymore because I don't need to, and I like to have a little bit of style. But back then, I dressed like, I like this, my slacks
Your
on,
yuppie
and
suit on,
my button-down shirt tucked in, and my cool shoes.
So cringe.
It was.
But you were crushing.
I phased out of that. I was crushing sales, and I walk in
Did you
there.
have like the full slick back or what?
At the time, yeah, I was like buds on the sides, and I was like just like that. But I walk in, and I immediately notice it was a hoarder house. And I walk in, and I am walking down hallways that are not meant to be hallways, but because there's boxes on both sides going all the way up, it is now a hallway. And the guy was just totally normal, like everything was totally cool and fine. He's wanting to sell his house. And I'm walking around, and it smells bad. It smells like pee from the dogs or whatever.
The cats.
And then he goes, oh yeah, there's a little blood on the ceiling. I don't remember why. I was like, I'm just going to ignore that you said that. And we walk around, and like the kitchen's a disaster. Everything's a disaster. And I'm like, I'm not selling this house. And then we go in the backyard, and he's got like this like little mini like pool hot tub spa thing that's not closed, and it's green as hell. And I look in there, and there's a overly bloated frog on its back, dead, like this big. And he just walks past it like it's not even there. And I'm like, what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do with this house? Are you going to get rid of everything? Is everything going to get up? Because not only do you have to get rid of everything, we have to clean this and like touch it up. There's a lot we got to do. This is not going to sell ever. And he was like, well, I was just hoping an investor would just come buy it as is, and then maybe they could just get rid of all of the trash. I don't want anything in here. Could you imagine putting that home on the MLS?
Like
how ridiculous I would look. Hey, nice listing, Cody. Like, thanks, guys.
And it's got like your little headshot with your suit on and shit.
Yeah. No.
The bloated frog.
So I didn't do it. What about you? What? I'm sure you've got more than I do. A crazy client, crazy, vendor.
Yeah, I mean, these douchebag agents. It's like the good agents are good. The bad agents are the worst.
I know.
And the guy, I overheard my sister-in-law, our admin, was in the house, and he was talking to his client. And he goes, "Ugh, like these counters they used. They should have used some nice natural stone here." I'm like, the fucking marble's imported from Italy, bud, and you're telling your client. And then so I thought he was joking. I thought he was being sarcastic, and I texted him, and I said, "Oh, I overheard you said the stone wasn't nice, or like that we should have used some nicer stone." I thought he was like making a facetious joke.
Sure.
And he goes, "Yes, if you use maybe some soapstone." I go, "Dude, you're fucking kidding me, right? You're serious." And I had to educate him on why he was wrong and a complete fucking idiot. But it just goes to show that there's some people, they see something, it kind of blows their mind, and like, damn, this guy's killing it, and they just want to shit on it. Or that's how they think they can provide value, by being a know-it-all.
A lot of agents would do that, where they'll, and this is a bad way, in my opinion, and sometimes in some cases a bad way to do it is if you start, and I learned this the hard way because I walked into a house that I would never buy, and I was like, oh man, that looks horrible, or this kitchen is just god awful.
Yeah.
It's just so outdated, and the clients weren't going to do any updates, right? And this was a long time ago, and then they ended up putting an offer on the house, and because in my head I was like, this isn't the house.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about what I would buy, and you can't do that. And it's the same situation.
Yeah, you could have you could have tarnished it for them, the seller, and yourself.
Well, I could have lost the client because they're like, oh man, I'm not comfortable working with him because I'm trashing the house that they like. And I mean, luckily I can read the room, so I caught on to a little bit of an emotional nuance or a mannerism that they did, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I flipped the script. Oh, well, these floors are good. This is a great starter home.
It's so funny.
We're gonna put an offer in. Great. Hey, we'll get a good deal. Yeah. But so I learned you can't until they start talking about it.
Yeah.
Don't talk shit about it. It's just because you're going to put yourself in a situation that's going to be very awkward, and you just don't want to put yourself in that situation. Maybe when you get into the more luxury space, you can be a little bit more nitpicky on things, but don't talk about things you don't know. Okay, last question. Has there ever been a time or times where you have just been like, you know what, this is it. I'm done. I'm quitting. I can't handle this anymore. It's just not worth it. Why am I putting in the time? Has there ever been a situation where you've been in that?
I have been there, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can specifically remember first starting out. So, I moved my whole family here from Houston, start up, doing the whole thing with Tim Heil and Gary Keller and all that, and how we met. And that all fell through, and then I started Revent Builds, And then I remember, this is probably maybe 8 to 12 months into it. Okay. So in a new city, starting a new company, hanging my own shingle, not earning a salary. And I remember sitting up in bed with Melissa, and she's crying, and she's like, are we ever going to make money doing this? Did we make the wrong decision coming to Austin? And then this was also right when there was a hurricane in Houston. And there was a bunch of these houses that got completely destroyed. And I was like, man, maybe I should just move back, and then I can just go down the streets and work on these houses. And I was coming up with this whole scheme to be this hurricane restoration company. And then, that probably lasted for a few days. And then I was just like, you know what? Fuck this. This is what I really want to do. And I know I'm going to be great at it. And I just told Melissa, look, do you believe in me? She's like, yes. And I'm like, just trust me. This is going to work, because I'm going to will it so. Like, I need to be all in on this. And then, just from that point forward, I won't say that there hasn't been dips where I've been upset or like unhappy or thought about like doing things different. But like when I was like really all in and just like decided like this is what I'm going to make work, it just started just blowing up,
That's good.
What about you?
Do you know why I started Sprout?
Why?
Do you know the real reason why I started Sprout? Oh my God. I mean, you're not gonna believe me and you're gonna make fun of me. And I'm gonna tell you because law of attraction is so real. And I brought this up in the last podcast, so don't put that stupid thing behind me again.
That was good, man.
It was funny. It was funny. So I watched Wolf of Wall Street before I started my company, and I was obsessed with that movie, like obsessed. And I was like, that's what I want. Like, that's what I want. And so I left there, and that's when I was working with Tim Heil, and I was like, I want that. I want to create a real estate brokerage that is similar to Wolf of Wall Street, minus like all the bad stuff. Like, come on, I'm like not.
This is why you slicked your hair back.
No drugs.
Gordon Gecko.
No strippers. But I want that culture. I want that camaraderie. I want that. I want to be a leader and like lead people and people respect me and like that was the and it's fun and then we created, and then I did it, and then we created it, and then at one point we had like 120 agents, which was too much, but everyone was just amazing. We were all like growing together. At the time, we were like going out, having fun at the nightlife because we were all just younger. No one had kids, and I was sitting back in my office. I was like, man, dude, I really did this. Like I really created this really cool real estate brokerage that has this amazing camaraderie with the agents, and everyone's happy. The retention here is amazing. And then I got a phone call one day, probably 3 years, well, maybe 4 years now, and my original investor called me. It was a Sunday, and I was hungover, and he goes, "Hey, do you want to sell a house to Jordan Belfort?" And I'm like, "What?" It was like Sunday at like 8 a.m. I'm like, "Why are you calling me at 8 a.m. on a Sunday?" But I answered it, and he's like, "Do you want to sell a house to Jordan Belfort?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street guy." I'm like, yeah, I mean, sure. He's like, cool. He's going to call you in 10 minutes. Click.
Shut up.
And I'm like...
You materialized your own Wolf of Wall Street
and I'm like,
call you.
And I'm like, this isn't happening. This isn't going to happen. But I get prepared for it. And, I put my clothes on, and I have my phone. I go outside my backyard, and all of a sudden I get a call. It was a California number. And I'm like, this is Cody. And, like, you have to try and play it cool.
This is Cody. Go.
Cody. So that's what I used to do. I still do with my agents. And he goes, "Hey, Cody, it's Jordan Belfort. How are you?"
Shut
and
up.
he had the accent, and I'm like about to have a heart attack, because this was like, I mean, Leonardo DiCaprio was like the idol in the movie, but like this was the real guy. And he was like, "Hey, man, thanks for connecting. I'm looking at coming down to Austin the next couple of weeks on my Falcon 7."
Did he say that?
He did, and I was like,
"Shut up."
I was like. No
You're a bunch of tools, dude.
I was like, no problem. I actually have a good friend. He's the manager over at Millionaire. We'll connect you with them, get you unloaded there, get you over here, and we'll have a whole plan for when you get down here. He was perfect. I was like, I'm going to get you on a home search. We're going to find some homes for you to look at. He's like, okay, cool. I'm going to put us in a group chat with my assistant so we can coordinate, and I should be there in 2 weeks. Talk soon. Boom. And so I hang up, and I'm like, oh my God. And I have his number, he's in my phone right now. He doesn't ever answer my calls, but.
So he never called you back?
No, he did. And then we were communicating back and forth about going. He never actually came because he ended up deciding that Austin wasn't the place. He was going to go to like Miami. But it was just such a wild experience, because it was him, I promise. Like, it was him. And he was emailing me, and his assistant was emailing me. We were always in these group chats and talking. We had multiple conversations, but it was just wild to think, like, I literally had the idea of having a real estate brokerage because I watched Wolf of Wall Street, which is stupid. I know how stupid that sounds. It's so stupid. But for me to think that and then start Sprout, and then like a couple of years later that happens, I was like, what are the odds of that? I mean, that was that's probably one of the most insane things that when it comes to like law of attraction and materializing things, like that was the most insane thing I've ever dealt with.
Do you remember what the question was?
No. I just want to tell that story.
It was do you remember a time when you wanted to give up? And you just were like, You were like, you know what? No.
Fuck.
I've never had a time where I wanted to give up. I am Jordan Belfort.
Fuck that question. I got a better story. We're gonna.
I do love the story, though.
Okay, I'll make this part quick. Yes, I've wanted to give up multiple.
I'll be honest. You were 5 minutes into that. I was just so like, oh my god, this is an amazing story. Like, this has
Nothing to do with anything. Cody, you're an idiot.
Great story, though.
But
Yeah, that was like, okay. Like, he's like, I picked up the phone. I'm like, something bad's going to happen.
So,
he's
hey.
like, and then Jordan Belfort's on the line.
I digress.
You don't even need to answer it.
No, I want to answer it. I wanted to quit twice. What business owners, a lot of business owners, when they start a business, what they don't realize, especially if it's a cash flow intensive business, is you have to put a lot of your own money into the company. In my first 3 years starting Sprout, all of my commissions was going into the company to fund the company. Mm-hmm. So if I made $600K in commissions that year, I only made 100.
Right.
Because I had to fund basically my agents, the leads for my agents. We talked about this last time, how much leads are, and they've gone up tremendously since then. And what happens when you build a company with the intent of growing is it's always a catch up, right? Like, oh, hey, we're at a good spot and now I can make money. Oh, wait, now we're growing again. So now I got to put money, so now I got to put money in again. And it's this constant chase for profitability, for personal profitability, or not business profitability. And so it was always a struggle for me because I was like, is this even worth it? I'm constantly, but like, it's like, when do you stop growing?
Yeah, I know.
When do you stop growing? When do I get to make money?
You bitch about your split when you're working under another broker, and then you give way more money back to the house when you're your own.
I'm way too nice with my agents too, which I love them and they deserve it. But it bites me in the ass because I'm sometimes too nice. But you're just always dumping money back into your company,
Yes.
even if you have all this cash flow coming in. If you're not doing that, you're not going to grow.
Yeah, and that feels
But
like
that is the hardest way to grow a business, is by self-funding your own business. At some point, you've got to go get outside money to really scale the right way. So like, that's the reason why sometimes I've been like, is it worth it? Like, is there ever going to be a point? And there is now. I'm doing well now, but it took a really long time, a lot longer than I thought it would take. And real estate brokerages in general aren't necessarily a super profitable business to be in. I mean, look at Compass. Look at there's so many big box brokerages that have been in the red since like day one. Mm-hmm. You know, and we've been fortunate to be able to get through a lot of the problems that have come up in the real estate industry over the past like 5 years. But that's the biggest struggle for business owners, and for me is like, when is enough, or at what point do I just say I'm not going to grow anymore? Ow, dude. God, you're so much bigger than me.